Welcome back to the final Authentic Communicator podcast. Aww, woo woo, but at the same time, I personally have thoroughly enjoyed working with Allie, Dylan, and Adam here. It's been amazing. We've learned so much in working together and collaborating with each other. So that's what this podcast is going to be about, the things that we learned in group communication, which is so much. But I think we're going to focus a little bit more on intrapersonal communication because I think that learning about like the yammy and how we talk to ourselves, it really impacts how we speak to others. So I want to start with Dylan. Yeah. If you would like to open us up on the floor about what you learned in this class.
Okay, well, starting with interpersonal, I think something really cool to understand is that it kind of like the root of all forms of communication in a way, because it starts with you. It starts with how you talk to yourself and your voice, and therefore when you start using these other forms of communication, it can really influence how you talk to others. Like if I'm having a conversation with Adam or you, and I have negative self-thought or something like that, or I don't talk to myself that way, I might not come off as maybe a confident person when I am having these conversations in my life. Yeah. And because of that, I think it was just such an important thing to learn about. Because before that, I guess I never really thought about it that much in comparison to how I talk to other people, how that can really influence me. It was a big thing that really stuck with me from a lot of the sources I read through and different things like that. Is like everybody kind of had the same consensus of how this does impact your communication. They might not all agree how necessarily it impacts it, but it does have an effect. Because it's all, at the end of the day, communication is a broad term.
It is, and I think that I learned, piggybacking off of what you're saying, is that I would perceive myself in a bad light, and I would automatically assume that other people would look at me in a bad light. So if you guys don't notice, I stammer, I stutter, but I'm a strong public speaker. So sometimes when I hear the stutter and the stammer coming, I would look at people and be like, oh, they're judging me. They're like, she's a terrible communicator. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm really amazing at this. But when I learned in this class to just let that go and just be who I am, and I think it translates well on camera, it translates well with you guys, I hope, I am assuming. That was one thing that I took away with intrapersonal amongst many others. But we're going to move over to Adam and get your thoughts.
I think my thoughts on interpersonal is I think it's important to discuss how much it affects all of us. Not only how much, but also the fact that it affects everyone. Like everyone, most given moments are speaking to themselves, and way more often than not, it's negative. And that has an impact on everyone, has an impact on the four of us, has the impact on the rest of our classmates, has the impact on our professor, has an impact on celebrities and athletes. And it causes a lot of harm to themselves, but also, not harm to the people they talk to, but more harm to themselves because they're not coming off in the way they want to the people that they're talking to. And I think this relates to kind of the four of us, is that I think we all went through that like a little bit. We were all worried about how we come off to our group mates because we knew we were going to be together for at least 2 podcasts. We ended up staying together all 4 because we ended up forming a dream team here. Now we're on podcast 4. This is Phil Jackson running the triangle offense. We all had those thoughts, and I think working together in a group kind of helped tame our yammy because we all got comfortable around each other. And I think we were able to just kind of calm down the negative thoughts. It still happens, but when we talk to ourselves first, I think it was easier when we got comfortable, but the rest of the world isn't comfortable to the more random people they talk to, and I think that's why it has more of a negative impact.
Yeah, I really appreciated the first assignment that we had in this class, like just telling each other about ourselves, because it got me to see Allie in a completely different way. It was like I can relate to the things that she was saying, and then having that moment where we were first rehearsing and I was so nervous, she was like, I think this might be a disaster. I know she thought it in her head, like, this girl, like, just calm down. It was like really bad. I was like, okay, my name is, and it was just about my life. But when I got up there and then just kind of looking at her in the crowd, just, like, oh, this is completely different. It gave me confidence. And I was so happy when I found out she was on my team because we worked together in a previous semester. And she's just really cool. So I think that activity, even for us, when we all first sat together, I felt like oh, I like the differences. I like that we're all different. And I was excited to see how we could collab. So,
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I really think it speaks to like intricacies that communication types have. Because like when you looked at Allie, it was like that nonverbal like affirmation or confirmation, like this is fine. It's like giving that message to you that, you know, this is I can do this. This is definitely a doable thing. Don't need to be that stressed about. And then like as Adam said, it really speaks to how communication is just so intricate in the way that so many people, it's like it's not just me talking to you, it's you talking to yourself while I'm talking to myself while talking to each other. And it's like there's really so much that goes into it that you can't see it, you can't hear it because it's not something that you hear, it's something that only yourself can listen to yourself kind of thing.
I think our group is a really good example of like all the different aspects of communication, because I know like as our group went throughout the semester, we all like visibly got more comfortable with each other and more comfortable like expressing ideas or like sharing thoughts, or like Adam starts singing and it's okay, you know, like we're all comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
But I also just feel like, you know, we all had like a few days every once in a while where like you could tell we weren't fully in it or we weren't like fully prepared. We were all like kind of questioning how prepared we were for something, and then at the end we would look back on the final podcast or the final product of whatever it is we were working on, and it was great every time.
Yeah.
And the grade.
The grade. It was great every time, guys.
Every time. And that's because we were all comfortable enough to kind of put our own thoughts aside and be comfortable with expressing ourselves around each other.
Yeah, it definitely helps to builds better communication for that comfortability. It's as generic as that sounds, but it really is just truthful. You learn people's nonverbals, you learn people's personalities in general and how they communicate with one another. It really makes you over time learn to more efficiently do things, and that's why we got faster at putting together our podcast and really deciding what we want to do in them.
Yeah.
But I think we all brushed over this part in the early parts of us as a group. The part of interpersonal communication that's talking to ourselves is mostly negative. Like the reason we were all so nervous because we were all telling ourselves that we weren't ready and that we couldn't do it. And then usually that actually has very negative effects, like I previously stated, you know, when it happens to athletes because they're telling themselves they can't do this, they miss that shot because they're telling themselves, hey, I'm gonna miss this shot, like it's gonna happen. But for us, I mean, we did end up putting in the work, and we're prepared that it worked because we knew what we were supposed to say, but we were all so nervous, and that time for the first podcast was like, we were all shaking, but it was that literally only stemmed because we were all individually telling ourselves that we could not do it.
Yeah, and I like the space that the nonverbal communication between us created. Yeah. So like right before this, because we're authentic communicators, I was like, I'm tired. It's finals week. Like I don't feel like talking at all. Like I can I'm talkative, but I appreciate silence. Yeah. Like my house is like, it's a nice size house, but you can hear a pin drop in my house when my kids aren't home. Absolute silence, like all day long. And I was just in a mood, but like you guys not being like, hey, are you okay? I can appreciate that. I can appreciate, like, I seen you guys notice it. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, let her have that. But it's showtime. You know, like, it was like this, like, you guys didn't say it, but I felt it. And then it just, you know, what happened up here, even in the 10 minutes in preparing, just really, you know, made me appreciate the nonverbal communication because it's powerful. It's just as powerful as verbal communication. So I do have a question for us, though. What is something you learned in this class or working with each other that you've taken into your personal life, if anything? And we could take a moment to think because that's okay.
I'll take it though.
He doesn't need a moment.
He doesn't need a moment.
He never needs a moment.
It is kind of more nonverbal, kind of reading the room type situation. Before I get into that reasoning, I didn't want to say I was the same way. Like right before we started, I walk in and you ask me like 2 questions, and I gave like one-word answers, and you kind of got it. I wasn't in the mood.
I was like, that's all right, because I'm not either. So we just look at each other in silence periodically.
And I went on my phone. The only reason that I started talking to these two guys because my phone died.
Yeah, I heard, and you made that very clear. You was like, well, my phone's dead. What you guys up to? Guess I'll talk to them. No, it's not that.
But, I mean, that's something I've always struggled with is just being able to read people's nonverbal communication, which led to, like, not negative aspects in my life, but just, like, difficulties, because as we also learn, nonverbal communication is a giant proportion of communication. Mm-hmm. So there's just been a lot of instances where it's hard, it's difficult to just read someone and know what they're thinking, what they want at a certain time, because especially if the person elects that they don't want to talk, mm-hmm. then they're not going to tell you that they don't want to talk, and it's the whole thing, and you have to kind of rely on that. And I think since all of us were very different, we all each got to read 3 different ways we communicate without our voice, mm-hmm. and that helped me a lot in my personal life.
Yeah.
Okay. I think in comparison, like for me, for myself, I think that's great. I mean, I think for myself, learning nonverbal, I'm like okay at it. I think I could somewhat read people, but it really stems to like comfortability, to like getting to know people. Because like if Camila was just silent day one, just sitting there like this, just no words, I don't know if I would have had the same like understanding. I'd be like, holy crap, what am I getting into here? What's he doing over here? But because we've gotten so far to it, I got to know her. I know we've had these conversations. It's like, okay, she's gonna perform when the time comes. She just wants to be left alone. Everybody's got the day. It's rainy out. It's cold. I'm sure it's a plethora of reasons to not want to have to talk. Everybody has those nonverbal cues of it's like, I'm just not in the mood. Don't need to talk right now. And really understanding that what they're meaning by that is not necessarily a negative thing. They just aren't trying to convey negative feelings to you, that they don't want to talk to you. It's that they're just not feeling necessarily that way. Everybody has days they're not going to be outgoing and that type of thing, and reading that nonverbal cue is just such a important thing to grasp and understand how to do. This class kind of helped me do that to a degree.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, but I feel like I learn more about the comfortability because I grew up as an only child. And so I've always been the kind of I sit there.
That's the
and
problem. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding.
I've always kind of just sat back and just I observe. I watch people. I don't really put in. You could probably see it in the first 10 minutes of this podcast that we're recording right now, because I actually just sat here listening to you guys, and then I learned that when I start getting more comfortable with people, I'm more comfortable putting my own ideas out there. And for the most part, I don't get negative feedback, except for apparently it's a problem that I'm an only child. But besides that, I learned it's made me more comfortable to express myself in situations where I may not really know people beyond a certain aspect, but I still know them well enough that I can incorporate my own ideas into a conversation.
That's good. I think for me, because I have a family of 6, so everything I learned in communications, I think that has a lot to do with my major. Everything I learned in communication, I go and I either test it on my kids, or I test it on myself around my kids. And it also taught, in its own way, this class has taught me that I don't know everything. I create these stories about people's thoughts crazy. It could be a condition. I don't know if it's a yammy. I don't know what's wrong. It could be the author. I'm just always creating these situations. So even with my kids, I notice I'm more gentler to understanding they're their own person. And it's just oh, you might not be thinking that because that's something I would think. And that has been really, really helpful for my relationship with my children. My relationship with my husband, he appreciates college. He's girl, I don't care about you making money. Just learn how to talk to me and receive being talked to, because I don't want to hear it because I believe my own stories. I'm always in my head. So This class has taught me to not go off of the stories. Believe it or not, I created a story about everybody in this classroom. Like
love
the
to hear
whole,
that.
no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Sometimes they're not. It's just like, I wonder. You know who it gives sometimes, but I'm not as crazy? It gives Joe. Remember the show? You?
Oh, Joe Goldberg?
Oh.
It can get like, look at you reading that book. You probably got to go to class tonight. I wonder what you study. Like, so in my mind, sometimes it's like, I don't know. But I've learned that people do not, that's not their story.
Yeah.
So even for my kids, because I swear, because they came out of my body, I know everything about them, which is false. Parents shouldn't believe that. They are their own person. So I learned that in this class as well.
I think kind of piggybacking off of that, I can kind of relate that to me and my dad. My dad's very quiet. He's just stoic, silent man for the most part, and you like make up in your own head what you think he's thinking or what you think his like response to things or like in general why is he just silent and he's not responding to some things. And then it's like you take a step back and it's like, no, you're just kind of putting your thoughts in their head, and that's not accurate. It's almost never going to be accurate. You can know someone really well, like you know your relationship with your kids, or like my relationship with my parents, and it's like you can spend all this time, but you still don't really know what they're thinking. You can make a guess, but that's not going to be the case. I think I really learned that here about when we learned like at the start of the class that people mean, and it's not the words that mean, it's the people meaning them. And so I think I really extrapolated that to like my relationships in my life. It's like when they say something or when they don't say something, I'm putting a meaning to that. They're not putting that meaning that I'm putting.
Yeah.
It's like I'm kind of making this up for myself, which sometimes is true, but not a lot of times it's not. And it's something to really keep in mind when you talk to people or talk to someone from anybody in life that's like a different walk of life. It's like they're going to have different thoughts than you could really ever imagine, probably.
Yeah. And that's why I chose to stay in this group, because I like the different walks of life, the different perspectives. And I do want to take you to a very nice taco spot, because I still can't believe you never had green sauce.
I
or
have
enchiladas.
had green sauce. I just,
It's a lot of PTSD from that last podcast. I'm like,
That was a rough
There's
one.
hard feelings
That was a
left
tough
over.
one.
I need to go try Nick the Greek. I went home like, this place, we got to try this place, because apparently it's number 2. But but like I enjoyed that. And that kind of leads me into conflict resolution, because a lot of the conflict, I realized it wasn't with the group, it was like within myself. Like, why would I get so angry? And that's just hypothetical.
Yeah.
Like, why did I get so angry that he likes Wiener Schnitzel to the point to where I'm just like, well, it should make the list. Like, like just standing by it so firm and just like, just negative. It's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, he likes Wiener Schnitzel. That's your problem if you're mad that he doesn't like, that he likes Wiener Schnitzel. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Like, you'll be fine to put that on the list. So that leads me to conflict management.
Yeah.
So has your conflict management style changed since being in this class, or has it kind of stayed the same, or you just really haven't noticed?
Well, I do, except that you like Burger King, so that was my thing.
Yeah.
I had Burger King the next day. I started to put it in the group chat. My husband's like, I'm
Sure.
craving BK. And I was
crazy.
like, never.
Well, have it your way. But
Have it your way.
conflict resolution, in this group specifically, there wasn't a lot of it.
Yeah,
We didn't
not-
get in much conflicts. I mean, even though we did fight each other on our famous top 10 list, none of us were actually too serious.
Yeah.
So but I think I have taken aspects like that more into my personal life, because it like a situation. Even if we can even stick with food, even if it's a situation where it's like, I don't understand why this person likes this restaurant. If it's a situation that's not you guys and my girlfriend or my siblings, then it's like, well, I would actually have to eat there. So I actually might want to question that a little more. But I can still take that mindset and being like, hey, it's fine. I don't have to know why they like it. I just know they like it. And I want to see them happy, so I should just drop it.
Just trying to-
Yeah.
It's okay.
That speaks to like compromise and stuff, and
Yeah.
the general like understanding when to use it, or like what scenarios of how much does this really matter
Yeah.
to you just winning the argument?
It's understanding that it's never really that serious,
Yeah.
especially with topics like this, like
Food.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like food or like what do you want to watch? Like it's never
No.
serious enough that you need to fight about it.
Yeah,
You just-
but some people lose whole relationships over.
Yeah.
Like that could have broke the group if we were like self-reflect.
if we were all
like,
hard-headed. And
yeah, just like what do you mean? Like, and then we did it like live.
Yeah.
Like this, what like we didn't come like make the list before. This was like.
Yeah.
They could have watched the end of Authentic
Yeah, they could have
Communicators
like, I'm done with this. Cut the cameras. You know?
Not
Snatch out the
Yeah.
microphones and stuff. But
Communicators
that,
broke up, not clickbait.
but that shows a lot about us individually. I think the ability to do that, even though it was, it wasn't a big issue, but
Yeah.
it was just like,
It was
It's fun,
lighthearted.
an argument to have for argument's sake.
yeah, for argument's sake, for sure.
Oh, and I was gonna say, like, when you argue with people, usually when someone's really dying on the hill and you're having conflict, I definitely learned that it's typically something else that is stemming them to do this or stemming them to be this way, or something happened that is causing them to now, communicate in such a strong manner towards you. And it's like, you kind of have to understand what they're thinking and kind of see like a bigger picture in a sense for that. It's not that serious, and that you can just let them have whatever they're doing. And I think when we took that personality test at the start, I think a lot of us got the effective. It was like effective at compromise or looking to compromise, but would stand ground on like important matters. It was that type of thing. I think almost all of us got that. So it really indicates how there was not really any conflict in this group, other than it was just kind of effective communication. It's like, we're going to do this, and everybody's like, yes, we are going to do that.
What also helped, I think, this is just like, I think what kind of eliminated us having conflict was we kind of wanted the same goal a little bit. We wanted that grade, and we got the grades.
Yeah.
But I think that eliminated conflict. But there even were some moments that since we wanted it, there was a little bit of like, we had to have some discussions about just who would go when in podcasts and what we wanted to do about it. Very mild, but it was good practice in discussions of how to organize something for the best possible solution.
I also think it's important to note, like bouncing off of that, aside from the very first podcast, every time we ever talked about a plan or what we were going to do in the podcast, that never happened. We always just, we sat here and led astray and like did our own thing every single time, despite the conversations that we would have. Oh, I'm going to go next. Oh, I'm going to go. And that didn't happen.
Well, we kind of figured out that like structuring the conversation is a bit difficult to do live.
It is.
Because like you can write the script, but we were probably not going to follow those lines so harshly, or someone's going to forget something, or someone's going to say something or want to add something somewhere, and it's like, okay, well,
I think for the four of us, I think we're all just, one thing we're all very similar on is that we're very game time.
Ability that's just
We like
go
we,
and speed.
we like the games. We like the pressure a little bit.
Yeah. 11:59.
Oh
That's been like an ongoing joke between me and my friends,
Yeah.
because it's like we know them papers are due at 11:59, but we know like weeks and weeks in advance. But that day at 10 p.m., everybody locked in.
I did that last night
Oh
on
my
a
gosh.
3-page paper.
Yeah, but it works. Like, I don't know why. That's why
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know why this works for
Yeah.
me.
In my brain, if I know I have the time to do it, every time I sit down and do it, I'm like, oh, I have time. I have so much time. And then I get sidetracked and I go
Yeah.
on to something else. But if I have to sit down and do it, because I don't have time anymore.
Yeah,
Yep.
And it
ooh,
works.
I like that. See, I ran out. I don't want to run out of time,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lock in. That's my favorite little saying now. I
Yeah.
feel like a cool person when I say like I'm gonna lock in right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm locked in. I just like what it represents. Sorry, a
Lock
little
into
weird.
your communication.
Yeah, that's locked into my
For
communication.
your sake,
You're
this
hilarious.
group locked in.
We are
At-
locked in.
Yeah.
We are, and
Yeah.
I think that that's why we did the whole podcast together. How do you guys feel about, again, random questions, unscripted, but how do you guys feel about change though? Like, say we changed groups, right? How do you think that you would have like felt?
I
Like-
think, this obviously was a great group. So I think by random chance we stumbled across a pretty solid one.
Right.
Of any groups you can really get. It went from past experience in different groups that are not that great. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm confident that I will be able to manage the group to a degree to just get through whatever I'm doing, and just at the very least we will get whatever assignments done, even if it's just a rough time mentally. I'm pretty comfortable doing that and just jumping into it and just doing my best to keep everybody together and the group actually working.
I think obviously since we all agreed to want to stay in this group, clearly none of us like necessarily wanted that change, but I think had the professor been like, no, you have to switch because we already talked about it, I think we would have been fine. We would have got through it. Would it have been as good of a time? I don't know, because we didn't go in those other groups, but I knew by staying in this group I could guarantee that we were going to reach the goal that Adam was talking about, all getting like the good grades in this class, and also working with people that I knew I enjoyed working with.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we value stability.
Yeah.
Is that safe to say? Like stability,
like
routine.
stability, but also like the group that I could know that if there is a conflict, we can resolve it, or there's not many conflicts in the first place, or a group, going way back, a group that, that is helping like each other get better at our yammies.
It speaks to like comfortability, and I think a professor said that at the start of the class when we were voting on whether we want to change groups or not. And he kind of hinted at how staying in a group, in a solidified group, can really enhance the experience. You can learn a lot from that,
right?
Because, and I would say I think we did learn a lot from how you can get accustomed to a group and things get more efficient. Things are easier to do because of that communication, and it really just ties it all together. For our productiveness.
Things definitely got more efficient.
It did. It did.
Just a little bit.
We went from 2-hour planning periods to sitting waiting for 2 hours to showing up 30 minutes before and all not saying a word to each other because we're all just on our phone.
Yeah, because we're what, guys? Locked in.
I was saying the podcast. I was saying the podcast thing. I was gonna say.
I thought that too.
No,
it's
okay.
I had no idea where we were going.
I'm saying we locked in on camera.
Yeah.
We didn't even say it all
No,
together.
we didn't.
We're not locked in yet.
Yeah.
We will be by the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
We'll be locked in 100%. And any final thoughts? Well, yeah. Any final thoughts about like, where do I want to go with this? Any final thoughts about maybe what could be improved in the course?
One of my goals was having to do with reading nonverbal, which I think I've gotten better at, but I mean, it's hard to tell until you drop yourself in the situations where it really matters. But one of the big ones for me was just effectively communicating in a group. So like expressing like what I want to do or what I think should be the plan or the course, and I think I got improvement at that, or just making myself clear and not trying to ramble on too much or make effective communication really in between each other, and not kind of muddy the waters with the set words I use. And I think I've improved in that with my outside life, and talking like friends and parents and group settings at the bowling alley and things like that. I think that was a big takeaway for me.
Nice.
One of my goals was just making myself more confident in a group setting, and I feel like I've done that. And I feel like if I go back and watch all of the podcasts, I can see that change because I'm like actively incorporating myself more in the conversation. And I feel like I definitely have you to thank for that, because most of the time you go, okay, Allie, your turn. Right. Yeah. Yay. And like I wasn't necessarily ready for that or necessarily wanting that, but I feel like it's what I needed to get that confidence in myself. So.
Nice.
For me, one of my goals was also like reading nonverbal also, because I knew that's something I always struggled with, and I wanted to get better at that. But like I said, I feel like I've done that with just kind of you three guys, just reading through it for people who are very different. I think that's where a lot of that came from, which I think was the purpose of the class, and I think the benefits of staying in the one group that we learned a lot. I think that like basically I'm gonna miss the group, obviously. Thanks for helping with all that, but also thanks for that experience of like reading nonverbal when it comes to right before the podcast, what we want to do, and during the podcast also. And this is the Bulls when they fired Phil Jackson. It's the end of an era.
Oh my gosh.
I'm definitely gonna miss that. I learned so much about sports just sitting right here, just like what? That's amazing. I think my biggest takeaway, or what I appreciate the most, is being challenged and allowing myself to be in a space to where it's like, okay, like other people can challenge your thoughts, but it doesn't make your thoughts not valuable, and it doesn't make their thoughts better. It's just compromising, I guess. And I'm not in a lot of spaces to where I sit back. Like when we are in our meetings, like I'm the moderator, so of course I'm like, but I don't talk as much as I do when I'm in other group settings, because I wanted to test here. I go testing stuff again, but just wanting to see like, could I actually handle it and what it actually felt like, and you guys made it easy. You guys weren't like as bad as I hear some other people, not in this group or class, but just in the world outside of school, when you're in the workplace, like people can be very nasty and like they can devalue you. And it's like, I wanted to prepare myself, but you guys didn't even really let me feel that all the way, because I mean, like, it was over small things, and it wasn't like it's just as little as Allie saying, well, I don't think that should go on the list. Like, it's like, well, first of all, like, I think it should go, but I didn't, but I've learned to, like, that doesn't mean that it's not a great idea. It just means more compromise. And it's okay to be challenged, because I don't know, people be acting nervous. It's not my favorite thing. I used to shrink myself down because I felt like, when people would see me, they see dominant and confident to the point to where they can't be themselves. So, and that sucks, because I can kind of read, nonverbal cues say you're shrinking yourself. I don't want you to do like that, shrink yourself down. But yeah, so that's like my biggest takeaway, and something I really appreciated from the group. I also appreciated Adam sharing his excitement. I know he's kind of modest over here, but this guy got into like all the UCs. That's crazy. And just how excited he was. Like, he was like, did you find out yet? Like,
I don't know if I'm supposed to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. Right, like 9 o'clock. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to ask you this right now, but did you find out? So just like that concern. Like, it was friendly, and it was like, oh, this is not just at school.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting, whether you're commentating a live game
or hosting your own TV show,
I love those.
For more information, contact Greg Poff. That's me at solano.edu.
we hope to see you here next semester. And remember,
It's more than just sports. It's an education.
You're not stressed out no more. And I appreciated, of course, Dylan with our Olive Garden. When I was like, Olive Garden is nasty. And he was like, well, I like like very calm.
I've never seen him like stand on something so fast.
I'm gonna die on the hill. I'm sorry.
Like Olive Garden.
Well, I like Olive Garden. And here goes, Allie was like, so you're the only one that don't like Olive Garden.
No, actually, I don't think Adam likes Olive Garden, right?
Well, he said he did.
Oh,
When he was back there jamming out, we can.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
Well, I want to leave this space open to, if you guys have anything else to add. If not, that's fine, but don't want to rush it. This is our last one, guys.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think I kind of talked about mostly everything I wanted to discuss, what I took away from the class.
Okay.
I covered it.
Same here. I included my final thoughts into like my final thoughts on like possible improvements.
It all was one. All right, wrap it up. So let's say this. One last question. What would be one piece of advice you would give someone to become an authentic communicator? And we'll let whoever.
I think when you're having a conversation with someone, don't try to read too much into it. Don't overthink it. Just say what you want, say what you gotta say, and when they respond to you, just give it some general thought before you just immediately snap back, depending whatever the conversation is. I just think you really just need to keep an open mind is the biggest thing because you might just mean something different than what they think they're trying to convey to you.
I think it's important to not set too high of expectations for other people. And that's not to say you can't have high expectations or expect like a certain level of something from someone, but don't go into a group setting where you don't know people or you don't know what's happening outside of like the few interactions you've had and expect them to perform at at a perfect level every time, because you don't know what's going on. And I think having those like overly high expectations can be what causes a lot of conflict within a group.
That's good.
Mine's a little difficult, but it's just try and talk to yourself as positively as you can.
Yeah.
Because that will improve things for you, improve how you come off to other people. And like I said, you talk to yourself more than you talk to anyone else. So if that can be as positive as possible, or even maybe majority positive, I think it'll help you and the others around you the most.
Yep. And I would say be humble going into group settings. Be willing to learn and give space for other people to lead, and be ready to take your position when it's time to lead. So going into any group, communicating, whether it's in work or another school project, just humility gets you really, really far. And you learn more when you're humble, when you're not going in with your chest out. So, and I think that's inauthentic for a lot of people. People who go into situations with their chest out usually got something to hide. It's some kind of, you're incompetent somewhere. Leave it up to me. Leave it up to me to find it, because I'm going to find it. I'm going to ask you a list of very detailed questions, and I'm like, gotcha. So, but that sums up our podcast for today, and we are locked.
Locked in.
Yeah. Ain't no switching up, so it will never be another authentic communicator group like this. I am so happy that I signed up for this class, even though it takes up my whole Monday afternoon. It was worth it. It was worth it, because I was talking to Allie like, you think I should do this class? She said, Pop's pretty cool, you'll like it. And she didn't lie. She was honest. I like him. I like the class. But thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm Camila. This is Adam, Dylan, and Allie. Hey. And we out.